quiet seaside town, an evil laid to rest centuries ago, has risen. An abandoned fortress deep in the swamp holds a secret that could save the village or destroy it. Now, a band of adventurers sets out to dig up the wounds of the past and bring the light of day to the roots of ruin. This is Tabletop Gold.
Friends, and welcome to Tabletop Gold episode 60.
Oh!
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
My name is Lars, Casteen, and let's meet everybody else here on the show. Robin Lange is here.
I'd like to amend that, Lars.
Oh, are we doing a little name change-a-rooney? Is that what we're doing?
It is now Robin Lange Fazio.
Robin Lange Fazio.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's tremendous. Let's do a congratulations. I imagine we'll circle back to that to figure out exactly why it is that Robin changed her name. Probably there was a precipitating event. We'll get to what that event may have been.
It's unknowable.
It's unknowable.
Who can say?
Let's just move
but
past
I'll also probably just keep it professionally Robin Lange in many contexts.
But on the podcast, do you want to be Robin Lange Fazio? Is that the name on the podcast? Like, what are we going to do? What's the name?
Chris is a listener, I believe.
Oh, man. That's...
I've been... Roll a D4.
Let's
get
It's the only way to decide this.
At work, I'm hyphenating. I don't like my day-to-day job. My day job. I don't... Is this my night job? Is this my night job?
It's your night job.
I guess I have to...
This is when you're a lady
I'm
of
a lady
the
of the night, yeah. I guess I have to hem and haw over that a little bit.
Okay.
David seems uncomfortable with that job description.
This is good. This is good broadcasting because people are going to tune in now for episode 61 to see if this has resolved itself, to see if Robin has settled this conundrum for herself. It's a reason to come back.
The cliffhanger to end all cliffhangers.
The cliffhanger's already happened. Good night, everyone.
Our Matt Humphreys is here.
Hello.
Hello. Zoe Chernicoff is here.
Hello.
And David the Tin Man Chernicoff is here as well.
Yes. Good that time.
Good that time. So let's just get right to it. Robin, the reason that we're unsure about what to call you on this podcast now, what is the reason for that, Robin?
The reason is I just got married, y'all.
Woo! Second round of applause.
Yeah, to Mr. Chris from Astoria, Queens.
Are we calling him Mr. Chris now? Is that the official change?
That's Mr. Chris now.
Chris from Astoria, Queens, the wonderful giver of hero point cards.
Of many overpowered hero point cards that have been featured on this very podcast.
No bias at all involved.
Hey, he gives them to everyone.
Oh, no, I meant in terms of in favor of us.
Oh, yeah.
How powerful
not towards
they are.
you.
Yeah.
So, Robin, we're recording this on a Tuesday. You just got married like 72 hours ago. You got married on Saturday.
Yeah.
We are your honeymoon.
This is what I'm doing for my honeymoon. I'm just recording the podcast.
You decided to go to the Abomination Vaults for your honeymoon.
We're going to the Abomination Vaults. Chris is right here massaging my feet. It's great. No, he's not. It was a perfect day. It really was. Lars was since Lars is the closest of all of our recording friends here. Lars was even there with his wife and child. And
I was there.
It was a lot of fun.
I took a great little drive down one of Connecticut's most scenic highways.
Good old Route 15, the Merritt. It's gorgeous. I will say, the coolest thing about having a wedding is you get to throw this big party where everywhere you look, there's people you adore. It's like really freaking cool to just have a party filled with people you really, really, really like and love, and just constantly feel overwhelmed with affection for everyone in the room around you. It's a really cool feeling. And I wasn't prepared fully, I think, for that amount of love that you feel from that. That was a great feeling. But the other thing is everyone's also trying to like make sure the day is so nice for you that you don't always hear all the other stories from other people. So I'm really curious how that was for other people.
Well, I can only speak for myself, which was that it was like just a charmed, lovely afternoon. I put on a suit. It still fit me.
Yay.
I rented a
Hey,
car.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about
After
that?
a pandemic?
Yeah.
When was the last time you put a suit on?
Did you buy it at Rin's Wonders? Like, was it magicked?
It was a suit of holding that I put on. My child, who has no formal clothing, my wife Sunny, managed to talk to somebody that happened to have like a shirt and a pair of pants and a vest, and we just threw those on him.
Oh, and he was so
Drove
cute.
down this beautiful highway, saw this lovely ceremony, spent some time talking to some folks that I haven't talked to for a little while, and just got to be like part of this lovely, nice, beautiful location. Just like, it's just, okay, here's the thing. I so appreciated the chance to get to spend some time in a nice place with nice people celebrating like a lovely thing. It hit
Yay!
hard, both because it was great and also because life has been very boring for a very long time. And it was like opening up a door into Narnia, spending an evening in a magical place, and then going back. I'm back home now, and it's the same.
Yeah, we did it at a venue that is like a nature center / museum. So it's like a working farm. And we had the ceremony in this grassy area that's like covered by these really, really tall old pine trees. So it was like this kind of enclosed copse with just these tall trees everywhere. But then you look down and you see the pond with all the geese and the ducks. And if you go a little further, you get to the farm. There's llamas and goats and cows and otters. Yes, there are otters
I
on the
forgot
farm.
about the
There's
otters.
these river otters. They're so cute.
If you're not married, you really otter.
Yeah.
Oh,
my God. These river
I'll see
otters.
myself out. Good night, everybody. Yeah.
Stay forever.
All I wanted to do was like just hang out with the river otters and have a little bow tie on.
Did you see the
That's so cute.
the river otters on the day?
I did
you
not.
get a chance to see them?
No, they were not out when we walked by for pictures, sadly. But the photographer did get scared by a goat.
What?
We were in the urban vegetable garden, and on the other side, it's a very tall wall is the goat enclosure. So photographers like stand, kind of kneeling down against the wall, trying to get just the right picture of me and my now husband. That's a fun word to say. And I guess this goat kind of heard us, and the goat jumped up like to the top of the fence, but we couldn't see that he was there because there's just this big wooden fence. This goat jumps up and screams at us, and the photographer just screams back. She did not expect, she nearly dropped her camera. And she already had sent us a picture that she had taken at that moment, which is us like shocked. And then the photos after are us just laughing our asses off. They're glorious.
Oh wow.
That's good.
Wow, you
Yeah.
got great photos out of this close call with a goat.
Yeah, because this goat just terrified her. And then it was so funny. We couldn't stop laughing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was, again, everything came together just as it should.
That sounds absolutely wonderful.
That's what you want to hear for a wedding.
Yeah, it could have been a disaster. We
You didn't even have a family member that misbehaved. You don't have to name them, but like
Oh,
you
I
could
mean, we
wink
did.
twice if
Yeah,
it
just-
happened.
we did. We absolutely did. There were plenty of disasters that happened.
Sure.
But I think we did a really good job of kind of once the day started, I worked really hard to just say, well, we are here. We've made it. I am now
Totally.
entering Zen mode, and I will just deal with things as they come and power through. The only thing I had to deal with was frantically rearranging the tables the morning of the wedding because we had a lot of unexpected cancellations due to illness. and enough people couldn't come.
Ooh.
And a lot of them were just among 2 tables. For some, it was only 2 tables. And so I had to frantically redo the whole seating chart and email it to the poor planner the morning of. Just call her and be like, "Hi, Michelle. So check your email. There is a brand new seating chart in it." And she did it. She was amazing.
If you were able to have the wedding day stress resolved by a chart before things have gotten rolling, you're way ahead of the game.
And really, that's what being a middle school teacher is all about.
Yeah.
If you can handle a classroom full of 12-year-olds, you can handle anything.
I buy it. Yeah.
Well, friends, let's see if you can handle this. A dungeon filled with monsters.
Oh, I'm out. I can't handle that. Yeah.
No.
Oh,
that can't
no.
be done.
Armad was not,
I'm
not
ready.
the one I was
I
expecting
am
to
ready.
piece out on that one. Robin, thank you so much for sharing that. Congratulations again. One more round of applause for Robin, last name unknown.
Thank you,
and
guys.
for sharing.
Thanks for
such a nice. I'm serious. Like this was such a win. We need more wins in our lives right now. So thank you for that.
And thanks for indulging me for these past few months as y'all had to like listen to me talk about planning and stuff. It's been a trip, and I am glad to be done with it all. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, the
Thank
thing
you.
about planning a wedding is at the end, you get to have a wedding.
Yes, and then it's done.
And then you don't have to have any more.
Oh God, I hope not. One was plenty. I really liked this. I liked the wedding, but I really like my husband. I'd like to keep just the one.
Yeah.
Good plan.
You could always renew your vows. There's all sorts of
Lars,
nonsense
shut your
you
face.
can do.
Shut
Okay, very good.
shut your face.
Too soon, man.
So, okay, I'll shut my face as soon as I do the following thing. And that is to thank everyone who has left a review for Tabletop Gold at their podcast app of choice, such as on Podcast Addict, quickly becoming, I know I've said this before, but like we're getting, a lot of people seem to be liking Podcast Addict. It seems like
you know
that's
why
the
that
app.
is?
I
They're
don't know
addicted
why.
to the show.
They are.
Can't
That's
get
right.
enough.
There it is.
From user Psychodemus, who is also on our Discord server,
What up,
which you can find by going to www.tabletopgold.com. He said, "I dove into the Baltic Sea to write you this review."
Thanks. You never live
It's a good place to write a review from.
And we're so glad you did.
So let's get into it now. Let's play our game. Your adventuring on this rainy spring day has come to a close. A delve into the 4th level below Gauntlet has brought you closer to some of the private chambers that Belcora Haravex called her own when she occupied this strange dungeon hundreds of years ago. But as you were preparing to leave, you also discovered a sprawling natural cavern with a corner of it containing a familiar green light. You've resolved to investigate that light when you return, but now it's time to head back to town to make sure you're ready for whatever the light portends. This, friends, like I said before, is episode 60. We are breaking off a new 5 right now. We have a new hand of 4 hero point cards submitted by our listeners on our Discord. Everybody has a total of 1 hero point each. And with that, I'm just going to ask you the
To go to
age-old
hell.
question, and to go to hell. I'm going to ask you the age-old question in games like this. What do? You're here on the 4th floor. Mag has climbed back up through this garbage chute into this waste disposal room where you just fought a poltergeist. What's up next?
I guess Vadim will sort of turn to the others and point towards the bag of holding and be like, Meg, I I wanted to see if anyone else would feel comfortable doing a burial of Chandria in Vizar, the scriptorium director. I know when we encountered her, she had become a monster, but still, her life was a bit tragic, and I feel a service may be appropriate.
Of course, it would be an honor to do the service you suggest. And I have some experience bearing remains back to town.
When?
Well, each time we leave.
It's been really fast for a whole lot of bodies, let's be frank.
Yeah, I feel like people just kind of get a little nervous when they see us coming back.
Trill, by the way, it would be lovely if you would feel comfortable playing some music for the service. We'd love to have you.
I can help too. You want me to like make the bones dance around as we put them in the ground, or what can I?
Norman, you have the most important job.
Oh yeah, I figured.
Of course, you have to. Meg, help me out here. Holy.
There might be a lock to pick.
Oh, are we gonna put her in someone else's grave? That's fun.
You're going to give the eulogy, Norman. That's
The eulogy! Oh, guys, I'm gonna be so good at that. This is perfect.
Oh, I've made a huge mistake.
You're not gonna regret it. Should we send out invitations?
Could we talk color scheme?
Guys, y'all are giving me hot flashbacks. Like, I'm getting hot flashes here. Can we not? Thought I was done with this.
So you start working your way up the backtracking through the dungeon, up through the stairs connecting into that dining room. And as you're walking through the library floor, you spot down that long main corridor of the library. In that room with the blue light shining through it, you see Augriel just sitting there on the floor, staring up at it, just in rapt attention. He hears you walking past him, and he turns to you sort of absent-mindedly and says,
"Oh. Hi, guys. You heading home?"
I'm giving a eulogy, Augie. You want to come?
I'd rather just stay here.
and he turns and looks back at the light.
Hey, Augie, you okay?
Yeah. Okay, see you guys later.
What's going on with you in that light? Augie?
And he kind of doesn't respond. He's forgotten that you're there. He's just kind of looking up at the light right now.
I mean, it is a pretty tempting light, you know? You start to see where he's coming from.
I'm a little worried about Augie, guys.
I've always been a little worried about Augie, to be frank, but I agree with you, Trill. It seems like the more he's exposed to that light, the more distant he seems.
Or maybe the more himself he is, Norman says, and he's sort of like gone shoulder to shoulder with Augie, and he's also looking up at it.
Oh, hi, Stephanopoulos.
Hey, what are you seeing in there? Is it calling to you?
Well, it's the only thing here that can heal me and that can keep me alive, or whatever it is I am now. So, I figured I should probably just spend some time with it.
I get that, like a reverse womb. Bumwo. It's your bummo. Are you just gonna stand here? Is there anything we can do to help?
No, I'm okay. You guys, I'll see you when you get back.
Trill keeps looking at Augriel with her brows knit together, just feeling that there's something wrong with all of this. Can she do like a recall knowledge or something maybe from any of the books that she's read to see if she can send or see if there's anything she can tell us that's going on here with his relationship with this light.
I'd say either an occultism or a religion check.
Blind?
Yes, please. So as far as you can tell, as far as Trill can tell, the story that he's telling checks out. You've had this experience of seeing the other ghouls here use this area as a sort of a spa, and he seems to be falling into a similar pattern as that. He's not interested in eating the flesh of anything. It seems to Trill as though he's at risk of becoming dependent on this light.
Hey, Augie? Augie?
Yes.
Are you happy?
Sure, yeah.
Trill looks at Vadim to try and suss out what he's thinking and what's going on.
I think at this point, Vadim is like a little bit more concerned about Norman and the light. And so he's sort of like still trying to keep his eye on Norman. He's not paying attention to Augriel at this point, I guess, unfortunately.
Okay.
So Trill just kind of decides to step back and let it go.
Mag sees Trill looking upset and says to her, "It doesn't seem quite right, but he can't come with us, and we can't stay."
It just feels bad, you know? Like, we've made this friend here, and I feel like we're not helping him, but I don't know what help he needs.
And maybe at that, Vadim turns and mutters, "I do."
Woof.
So you continue working your way up through the servants' rooms on the second floor, and then you push your way up back onto the ground floor into the open air, and you hear the sound of the rain falling. And you feel the typical blast of humidity and heat that comes from the swamp. It sounded like you wanted to bury the remains of the former head of the scriptorium, Chandriu and Vizar. Is that something you wanted to do here or back at town?
Vadim, do you recall the spot where we laid to rest the kobolds who'd been haunted in the dining room on the top floor? Perhaps we might revisit that place again.
Mac, that's a wonderful idea.
Will I give eulogies for all of them? I guess you said something before. Is it weird to do it again?
You know, Norman, I think that's a lovely idea. Just speak from your heart.
Yeah. Speak from my heart. This is going to be great.
You know, I'm sure it will be, Norman. I'm sure it will be.
Norman's like practiced it. You see him doing like big gestures as he walks behind them.
Meanwhile, I bet Vadim will start, digging the grave for Chandriu and Vizar.
So where you guys are, if you're setting up near where you bury the kobolds, is on the shore of where this peninsula that the gauntlet is on. So the relatively freshly dug graves that contain the remains of these stone skull kobolds is right here near the water, facing off towards where the sun is just starting to set.
Vadim will, lay the bones in, say a few Pharasman rites quickly over them, and then just say, "Well, before Norman speaks, I just wanted to say a few words. We didn't know Mizzen Vizar, but she felt love and died not knowing the cruelty that she had experienced. And I hope that when she finally meets Pharasma, that Pharasma will take that into account, as I know she will, and show mercy." And now I believe Trill is going to play, and Norman has a few words. Thank you both.
And Trill just...
That was absolutely lovely, Trill. Thank you. And now, Norman, please.
And, Norman positions himself at the heads of all the graves, wherever everyone can get the best look at him. And he bows deeply, totally unnecessarily, because who bows before a eulogy? But what does Norman know? Between them, they were noble people. They wrote words. They were warriors. They ate delicious foods and bad foods through all their years. And they saw many things here in this keep. And they saw sad things and good things. And through it all, they had their teeth. Those teeth changed some, as they do in the course of a lifetime. The teeth came and went, but they had them, except maybe when they were babies and they were sitting latent in their skulls. But they were still there, a part of them. Amen. And he bows deeply once more and then begins clapping for himself. Again, not a thing you do after a eulogy.
Not generally.
Latent in their skulls.
Latent in their skull.
You guys look up an x-ray of what's going on with the baby's teeth sometime.
No.
Don't want to.
Whoa.
Yeah, latent
Too
in their
real.
skulls. Just
Taking your
saying.
word for it.
Vadim will walk up and clap Norman on the back and say, "That was really lovely, Norman. Thank you. It's a hard thing to do to speak about a deceased that we did not know very well, but I'm really proud of the empathy you showed and the thought you gave to this. Thank you."
Thanks. And Norman pulls him in for a full hug.
Vadim very awkwardly is
Yeah.
clearly was not expecting this.
Mag leans down to Norman and says quietly, "Thank you, Norman, for speaking from the heart. I wonder whether Ao might have anything to say from her heart."
And Norman sort of looks up at her and they lock eyes. He really considers it in a way. I feel like he doesn't really consider very many things. He sort of nods deeply and he says, "Yeah, maybe." And then he gets a little feisty, but they're still connecting. And he's like, "Maybe she'll journal about it."
And Mag steps back and begins to replace the soil to fill in the grave.
That you were going to say she puts Trill in her pouch.
No, Trill plays some working music for Mag.
Oh, yeah. We should sing a sea shanty now.
Toss the soil on the drow bones. Toss the soil on the drow bones. Toss the soil on the drow bones.
There's soil on them there bones.
I think that's a ballast point for all of us.
That's a lot of ballast points. I'm gonna have to get a whole new computer to store the number of ballast points that you guys just earned for that.
Like crypto.
Yeah, I've got a graphics card working on those ballast points right now.
We're gonna do a ballast point NFT. Speaking of
yes,
yeah,
of course
okay.
we are. Are you
Love
kidding
it.
me? We got to find some way to get the money coming in on this thing. That's absolutely what we're doing.
I am so on board.
So the rain falling just as heavily as it was when you first came out here, you put the final moments on this ceremony and start walking back to town. And as you walk back to town, perhaps you consider all of the things that you accomplished today here in the fortress below Gauntlet. You annihilated Nakazarin, the high priestess of the ghoul cult. You helped exorcise the spirits of 2 different ghostly library workers. You recovered several more of the books sought after by Morlabint, the bookstore owner. You found the 3 tomes Belcora's right-hand man, Volok Azrene, requested be transcribed by the librarian who loved him. You explored the sickening locales throughout the library level that the ghouls called home. You confronted a strange haunted eye. You made a deal with a literal devil. You examined a scale model and specialized book collection focused on the destruction of Absalom throughout history. You delved into the 4th level below Gauntlet to investigate a dinner party that seems like it ended hundreds of years ago with the poisoning of many guests and the deaths of many servants. And you discovered a cavern containing the eerie green light that you have tracked throughout this place. By the time you arrive on the northern side of Otari, it's around, this is a coincidence, 4:20 in the afternoon. And you see the town under this blanket of rain rolling down the hill as it always does toward the docks at the southern side of town. It's a quiet day. Nobody's out milling around because of the weather. But it seems to me that you guys might have some business here, but I'm going to let you kind of lead the way as to what it is that you're doing during this this afternoon back in town.
Well, we've got a bunch of books from Morleybunt's list now to bring to him to sell. Did we I think we might have finished everything that he was looking for.
Well, let's see.
Mag takes a look at the list from Morlebin, and there is, you if not all of them, you have knocked out a massive portion of the books that he was looking for, and you definitely get the impression that he would be beyond pleased to pay you for what it is that you found.
Great, let's head over there and get these weird books out of here. Man, he's got some bizarre taste.
Oh, and Norman's turning one all the way around as they pull them out of the bag. Oh.
Oh my gosh, this one's this one's a pop-up book. Oh my god.
Mag, did you know that you can do that? And Norman points at a picture.
The pop-up smacks Mag in the face.
I can't say that I did. Mag is incredibly inexperienced in this department, and is really uncomfortable and is just sort of trying not to show it. So she says, "Oh yeah, I mean, there's a whole range." Yeah.
So you push through the door into the bookstore, into Odd Stories, the bookstore that Morlebint maintains with Karlth. And Morlebint sees you come in, and you see the small red-haired wizard jump up from behind the counter, clap his hands a couple times, and say, well, my goodness, it appears that my favorite new business associates have returned. Did you perhaps come back with any more of the merchandise that I was hoping you might be able to locate in that terrifying place you've been spending so much time? And at the back end of the bookstore, you see Karlth wearing a red chunky knit sweater and reading glasses, reorganizing some of the bookshelves.
We might have.
Well, I guess I could. Who better than me to tell you whether it is that you found something I'm interested in? Why don't you show me what you've got?
Mag, my dear, would you like to unload our burden?
Why, certainly. Mag drops the bag of holding to the ground and very, very gingerly, very deftly, Serge pushes things about inside for what it seems like just an absurdly, comically long time. And then she, at last, very daintily pulls out the books.
And Morlabint, as each book comes out, just seems thrilled, more thrilled, ecstatic with every new book that gets put on his counter. And he starts speaking so fast, there's no way to keep up with what it is that he's saying. He's like, oh, and a treatise on necromancy by the ancient Varisians.
Can I take a look at that one?
Oh, of course. Here, take a look. This one is truly appalling. And he and Trill spend some time being, in turn, freaked out and impressed by this thing. And as this is happening, as Morlabint is taking inventory of what it is that you've brought him, each time he looks at one of these books that you've brought him, dropping another 5 gold into a bag for you to take away with you when your business here is done. Karlth steps forward from the back of the store and starts engaging you in conversation. I'm quite envious of you. I love this town, and I love this town's history in particular. I've always done my traveling through the past by walking my fingers through the page of a book. But there you are in that place, actually walking into history itself. It's quite something what it is you're doing. My envy is short-lived, of course, because I wouldn't want to take on the personal danger that you are putting yourselves through for all of our sakes, yes? And then my envy reveals itself to be completely misplaced when I realize that in conversations with you adventurers, I'm able to learn more about the history of this town and the Rose Guard's raid on Gauntlet than any historian has had access to for centuries. So, really, and he looks at you with open eyes, like earnestly, I feel lucky, fortuitous to be able to know you. It is a great thing you are doing.
And Norman sort of tears his eyes off of the book that he's still been kind of like doing the pop-up over and over. Just like kind of startling at it each time anew, like a cat with a toy. Hey, Carl, that reminds me. I know we're charting uncharted territory and blah, 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 blah. What do you know about Belcora? Do you know any stories about her? We're getting, I don't know, I feel like we're just getting little glimpses, like a shattered glass or something. Maybe you can help us fill in the pieces.
Well, it's an interesting question. We spend so much time going through the accomplishments of the heroes that, I'm not sure I've really spent a lot of time thinking about Belcora herself. It's not exactly my area of expertise, but I do know that she was believed by the Rose Guard to have plans to attack the city of Absalom for some reason. There's an interesting sort of side note about Belcora. It is believed, not known for certain, that she spent some time in Absalom. But I spend more of my time, to be honest, tracking the heroes rather than for lack of a better, more precise term, rather than the villains.
Norman gets really interested in this, but like, quietly mumbles to himself, bet she was a runaway.
Could be. Again, I'm looking to you in a lot of ways for information because I'm starting to feel as though a large number of the things that I believed I knew are actually wrong. The fact that there is anything underground, much less a library that this old fool here has become obsessed with. And Morlabint looks up at Carlton, grimaces, and sort of shushes him as he returns to his books. I suppose everything that I believed I knew about Belcora is up for question, so I should probably brush up on my Haravex history, as it were.
Yeah, let me know what you find. And Norman sort of lost in thought.
Yeah, why did she hate Absalom so much? I mean, there was that entire room about all the different ways that Absalom, all these different models about all the ways she seemed to fantasize Absalom being destroyed.
Really?
It was as though it was a fantasy. Why did she hate Absalom so much?
Well, now it seems as though I may have something in common with the old sorcerer. If she was a student of history, and I'm fascinated by the fact that she sounds as though she was something of a scholar.
Do you know about Absalom being destroyed?
Oh, certainly. Everybody knows about the various raids and sieges of Absalom, and he is able to rattle off all sorts of stuff that Lars doesn't have on the tip of his head. But yeah, he and I think any historian worth their salt have a laundry list of recent attacks on Absalom, but he doesn't even come close to approaching the historical record that Belcora had. And he sort of gets lost in reverie as he's rattling through these stories. And he just says, I keep thinking back. I can scarcely believe it myself that you found the room, you set foot in the room where Belcora herself issued forth that magical fireball that killed our dear town's namesake, Otariel Vashti.
We may have come across some evidence that things fell out a different way.
Oh?
That Otari was not struck down in that moment, but rather struck below.
Struck below?
We've seen evidence that suggests, it's strange to say it, that he could still be down there.
He could still be down there? What do you mean? He would be over 500 years old at this point.
I suppose it scarcely makes sense. But those messages, the ones we saw written in that strange green light, and he turns to the rest of the group for
Norman
affirmation.
rolls his eyes. Oh, here we go with the green light again.
Oh, well, you should be one to talk about being a little bit more keenly interested in the light than others
It
around.
isn't Faulkner, it's Fitzgerald.
Two of the
Golf
people
clap.
who I know have read more books than I have
But
loved that, which says to me that there's something that I don't understand.
Dorks.
The end of the Great Gatsby.
No, don't tell me. I
Okay.
want to not know.
Okay.
I've gone so long without knowing. Don't you dare tell
Better
me.
not knowing.
and back in Morlabint's bookshop, Mag says Faulkner and Fitzgerald, you mean that new pub down by the harbor? I haven't been yet.
I haven't been either. I hear it's quite lovely. Well, if what you're telling me is true, I've thought myself sometimes about how if Belcora had not been cornered in that room and set forth a fireball upon Otari in an act of reprehensible cowardice and killed him dead on the spot, this town would probably have a different name, But if you're telling me you believe that maybe Otari wasn't killed in that moment, then perhaps we should all say that we're living in a town of a completely different color, right? Maybe we shouldn't call this place Otari if they're still around somehow.
Well, that sounds like an overreaction.
Well, you look, I think a lot. There's not much to do here. And Morlabint, at this point, having gone through all of the books, drops a heavy sack of coins on the table and says, 12 incredible books at the rate that we've agreed upon, 5 gold per book. That's 60 gold. This is incredible work you've done. You are forever, from this point forward, you're forever a friend of Odd Stories. This is my store, of course. I will sell these books for a tidy profit, but I want you to know that you are a friend of this place. Think of it as a loyalty program. And because you guys have completed this quest to find 12 books of interest to Morlabent, you are now friendly with Odd Stories. You now have the support of Odd Stories.
Phew.
Which means...
When Norman runs for mayor, right, we've got their vote.
Right. They'll even put a yard sign up.
That's right. Don't blame me. I voted for Norman Core. So you, from this point on, will get a 10% discount on the things that they sell, i.e. books, formulas, and arcane or occult scrolls.
Yes.
And scholarly casters, which I don't think anybody here is, get to retrain faster here.
Oh, that's
Not
nice.
a lot of scholars in this group.
It's true. Karlth looks at you again with a very serious look and says, I have found this conversation to be incredibly thought-provoking. I appreciate you taking the time to hear the ramblings of an old bookworm like myself. And Morlabent says, yeah, we're done with the business. Can you just please leave the store?
Jeez.
Bros.
Oh my.
Vadim takes one last look at the necromancy book that they've been looking at and just scowls and shakes his head as he walks out.
And you step back out into the rain on the loose cobblestones that run down this central road that leads down the hill into the sea. What would you like to do now?
So Norman, as he has been wont to do when he's in town, is curious to go check out is it the thirsty alpaca, the rusty llama, the dirty dromedary? What's it?
Dirty dromedary.
You pay extra for a dirty dromedary.
Don't look that up on the internet, friends.
No, don't do it.
Yeah.
This place, as it has sort of risen and fallen through the social ranks of this town, has been known by a number of names. Most recently, of course, it's the Thirsty Alpaca. Although right now it is known just as a bunch of ruins as Norman walks through the rain again towards this bombed out pile of bricks and spots out of the corner of his eye, hiding within that pile under a crudely fashioned tent with a small fire burning underneath it. He spots 2 kobolds that are familiar to him.
Nang nang bodobo! He says, having still not understood that kobolds don't speak.
We speak Draconic. We don't speak Undercommon. And these 2 kobolds step forward, and you recognize them as Diemzimkork and Kutzun, the 2 kobolds that you rescued from the Incutiluses just a couple of days ago. They look at you warmly. They were expecting you to visit them at some point because they owe you a favor.
How are you guys doing? I mean, this looks kind of miserable and wet. Is that fire keeping you warm?
It's not great, says Diemzimkork. Ever since we were jettisoned by the rest of the stone scales, it's been a bit of it's been a little bit touch and go. We can't return home. We can't go into the town because people will think potentially correctly that we are in some way responsible for the destruction of this place. We're sort of sailors without a port, to use an irritating nautical metaphor that is lodged in my head after that horrible creature started sucking on it.
Well, yeah, well, I guess all of this is better than a mind control succubus helmet, right? Step up, step in the right direction.
Kutsun says, "Thank you. That is what I have been saying to DM Zimkork."
The helmet is half empty of your head. Optimism, right?
Well, thanks to you, the helmet is entirely empty of our head. We don't even need to be optimistic about the situation, which again is what I have been telling DM Zimkork.
And like when they mentioned the sailor thing, Norman started rifling around in his disguise kit. He was going to get out a sailor outfit for literally no reason, because you don't need to dress up as a sailor when someone has said something nautical, but he was going to. But instead, he happens to pull out, it's a white chef's helmet, like a cook's hat.
The big toque.
Yeah, exactly. And then he hands it to them. He's like, maybe this will help. Here's I don't know, could keep you warm. You could play dress up with it. I don't know. I find when I'm a little lost, I don't know who I am, I kind of become someone else and see how it fits.
DM Zimkork looks at this chef's hat that you have handed her with incredible suspicion.
Yeah, right. This would obviously be deeply triggering for them. I've now realized as soon as I said it. No. Look. It goes on. It comes off. Norman's like putting it on and off.
They're squinting at you as you're doing that, like looking up at you.
Yeah,
these two small, like dragon-like creatures.
It's just what have you guys been eating here? Here, I'll show you. And Norman is there do they have any food around? What does a kobold eat?
You spot that on this small fire that they have tucked away in this pocket beneath the wreckage that they've made, there is, in fact, a nice smell wafting out. It seems as though Kutsun has been baking what, certain upper crust individuals might call squab. He's cooking a pigeon.
Sure, squab. So Norman sort of crouches down by this fire. He's like, see, you put this on and then, hey, you are a fancy chef. Look, I am making my fancy chef stuff. And he's poking at this pigeon. He's not making it any better. But he's like, see, and suddenly you kind of belong. I don't know. Does that make sense?
They both look at you and say simultaneously, no. But I think I do understand what you're getting at. So Zoe, you and I have been speaking about possible things for these kobolds to do. Because where we left off with you rescuing them was that you're going to be able to help them set up a shop of some sort, right?
Right.
So you and I had a conversation, and we found a bunch of really fun alchemical and magical baked goods that these kobolds can start preparing for two reasons mechanically, just as we're bounced out of the scene here. One, you guys can buy these items from them that would not otherwise be available. And these are wild alchemical items. The first one that you're able to afford is something called Dragon's Blood Pudding that helps you eat. You crunch into a savory pudding made from dragon's blood, and it helps counteract the slowed condition. So if you get slowed down, you can bite into this dragon's blood pudding and it can pep you up. Just as an example. E.g. And in addition to that, because this is now a business that supports you, you'll be able to earn income here in a way that I think these two kobold friends of yours are about to describe. DM Zimkork looks at you and says, well, no, I don't entirely understand the hat situation, but Kutsun has always had a baker's spirit. It's true. His abilities with fire were a big part of what compelled the rest of the Stone-Scaled Warren to push us to the front lines of bombing this bar.
And Norman's filing all these things they're saying away about bombing the bar, and so but he doesn't want to interrupt.
And Kutsun says, DM Zimkork, you sell yourself short. Everything I know I've learned from you, of course. But there's an issue here. I'm not sure that the people around this town are going to take too kindly to a pair of stone scales running a shop out of the place that the stone scales destroyed. So tell you what. If what you want from us is for us to bake things for you, perhaps you could help us sell some of the things that we've got around town to people to help them enjoy the fine dining experience that, to be honest, ever since the bombing of this particular establishment is quite lacking in town. And perhaps you could help us sell what we've got, and a little bit of coin could come your way too.
Sure. I like money. I like shiny things, but one little correction, and Norman snapped into like Chris mode. He's like, I don't want you to do this for me. And he gets down low and winks. I want you to do it for you.
And DM Zimkork says, that's exactly what I've been telling Kutsun this whole time. All of our lives, we have been members of the Stone Scales, or fugitives from the law. We've never just been, or we've been mind-controlled by an arthropod. But we've never just been DM Zimkork and Kutsun. This will help us find a new way forward and to carve a niche for ourselves, albeit as fugitive bakers. But still, that's going to be
rejected
us.
Fugitive bakers. Yeah, I think it's a good place to start. Sometimes you have to start as someone else before you get to be yourself, you know?
And they both look at you simultaneously and say, no, we don't understand that. But this has given us quite a bit to think about.
Well, can I get you guys any supplies to get you started baking? What do we need to do to get this place set up? You look sturdy. Can you do all the work and I'll just sell stuff sometimes?
Tell you what, if we come up with something that we need, we'll tell you. And if you find it for us, we'll cut you a great discount.
Great. I like that.
But it's gonna take some time for us to get set up, says DM Zimkork.
It's gonna take some time for Lars to figure this out.
I don't have a side quest for you right now, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Right.
But I will later.
Any chance you guys are going to be able to make bundt cakes?
Oh, of course. If you grow tired of those horrible fish pastries that those thieves sell, perhaps a bundt cake could make a great dish. And Kutsun says, "Yes, I'll start working on that right away."
Well, if you think those are going to be a staple, I think I've got a name idea for you.
They both look at you and say in unison, "Oh?"
And Norman looks up, goes full visionary, and he goes, "Nothing Bundt Kobolds."
And in your mind, this sign that says "Nothing Bundt Kobolds" explodes in a shower of fireworks.
I mean, is everyone familiar with Nothing Bundt Cakes? This is like a running bit in our life. Nothing Bundt Cakes is like a chain.
No.
I'm not familiar.
It's like,
Oh,
guys,
wow.
guys, it's a chain that can be found in strip malls throughout America. What the fuck is with the name? It's not a pun that parses.
No, it doesn't. Do they have
Bundt
nothing?
Cakes.
Nothing Bundt cake.
It's a bundt cake with nothing in it?
It's nothing.
They only
nothing
make
but
cakes.
Yeah.
Well, right, but I get that the real words don't.
Also, they sell other stuff.
Oh, well,
then
that
that
is
is
Wait.
yeah.
You're telling me not only do they sell bundt cakes,
Yes.
which I would not expect
Yes.
from the name, but also
Yes.
Sell other things.
they sell other things,
Yes.
Yeah.
which I would not expect from a willful idiot brain reading of their name.
Yes.
Of Nothing Bundt Cakes.
This is very cathartic because this is basically exactly the exchange that Zoe and I had in the car the first time we passed by one of
And
these
now
places.
every time we see
and
one.
now we reprise every time we see another one. Nothing Bundt. Kobolds.
Nothing but kobolds.
And they look at you and they say, well, I think that there might be a branding issue for the broader population that maybe would be upset at our bombing again of this location, but I think it's a great name. Just when you're trying to sell our good, just work your way up to telling people that that's what the name of the business is.
Yeah,
What I'm
we'll,
trying.
we'll get a pretty logo and write it small.
Okay, that makes sense. Sure. Look, you're obviously the expert here.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, sounds like you got your work cut out for you. See you around.
Thank you again. And they seem beyond thrilled. They are ecstatic about the potential opportunity that this new chapter in their lives has created.
Aw.
You know, I never realized it until that scene, but the essence of Norman's dialogue is basically LinkedIn influencer.
It requires an equal mix of deception and diplomacy.
That's right. And not really knowing what you're doing.
But just declaiming big, positive, sort of angling for clout, you know?
So it sounds as though after this interaction between Norman and his old friends, that the group is heading to a bar for an evening of decompression. Do you know which bar you're most interested in going to?
Crow's Casks has good drinks.
Yeah, I feel like we've enjoyed Crow's Casks.
Yeah. It's a family place.
So I think that's where Trill would have ended up, because Trill really enjoys Magaloy's company, even though that's not where Trill goes to make her money. She usually goes to Crook's Nook to get to play. She enjoys going to Crow's Casks to chat with Magaloy after a long day. So I think that's where Trill would have ended up.
I'm going to say that before they adjourned, Mag had some inkling that might be where Trill was headed. And in the meantime, she has gone and gotten a haircut.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah, she got a little fresh cut.
Any major changes or just sort of a trim?
More of a cleanup, you know. We got the sides kind of like chopped back down to nice and short, braids staying long. She's looking fresh, ready to rip. And by rip, I mean rip stuff physically.
So when Norman is done with this negotiation with the Kobolds, he's able to step back into Crow's Casks on the eastern side of the river winding its way through town. Spots Trill chatting it up with Magaloy. Spots Mag's sharp new haircut. And what is Vadim up to?
I think Vadim probably went to Blades for Glades and just like sharpened vigilance, sort of ran through some very basic, like, stuff you might do at home, while listening to a podcast, just life maintenance stuff. You know what I mean?
Clipping his toenails.
Yeah.
It's been 24 days, and I don't know that any of us have clipped our toenails.
I haven't since the beginning of the podcast. I mean,
No.
just personally as a human being.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
You don't have to. They clip themselves, in my opinion.
That's
They clip themselves,
horrifying.
in my opinion.
So in this time that Vadim is at Blades for Glades, Carmen Rajani will not leave you alone. Your attempts to sharpen your beautiful Aldori dueling sword, Vigilance, he's just standing there a short distance away from this blacksmithing equipment that he, as you know, has very little knowledge of how to use. And he's just muttering at you about like, well, I'm glad to help any friend of Mayor Menhemez, of course. Duty to the town, after all. He's sending adventurers to take care of things that the town guard should be taking care of themselves. That's that's fine. I guess that's who we're counting on. We're counting on you and your friends. You and your weird friends. I guess that's what we're doing.
And I think Vadim, tries to ignore this as much as he can, go through the task, just trying to focus on cleaning vigilance, making sure it's sharp, ready. And finally, after he's finished, he gets right up in Carmen's face. And he's a big guy. He's 6'9" is I think what we said. And he looks down at him, narrows his eyes, slams vigilance back into its scabbard, and says, "Thank you so much for all your help today. I can't wait to come back again and do this soon." And he's inches away from this guy's face. And maybe his other hand drifts up to his knife on his, which he wears on his chest. And then he smiles a big wolfish grin, turns, flips his dueling cape over his shoulder, and walks out.
Nice.
And he, as you get in his face, he looks terrified. And it's just as you're leaving, just as you're a safe distance away from him, that he timidly shouts out, "That's a nice sword you got there. My family has a nice sword too,
Oh.
I don't get to use it ever, but..." He just sort of mutters to himself and disappears back into the shop. So with everyone reconvened back at Crow's Casks, you spend an evening of celebration, of unwinding, of discussing some of the things that you have experienced both at Gauntlet and in town. You head off to sleep. And as Vadim drifts off to sleep, first for a while there's darkness, and then something else overtakes Vadim.
It's an overcast Oath Day afternoon. The light is pale and gray. From the windows I can see the courtyard shrouded in fog. I'm back in the house in Ustalov, just outside Kalafas, before our family moved to Lostwall. The household should be bustling at this time of day. Instead, it is empty, devoid of life. I cannot find anyone where they should be. From somewhere, though, I can hear a voice singing, low and soft. So I spiral through the unlit halls, further and further into the manor, passing through rooms that are bare, stripped of furniture, trying to find the voice's source. It is coming from a windowless room that I did not know the house previously contained. A small fire crackles in the hearth. On the mantel above the fireplace, the porcelain vase holds 7 red roses, freshly cut from the garden. And there, in the corner of the unfamiliar room, is a woman standing with her back to me. Her hands are held tightly to her chest, just above her heart. Hers is the voice I have heard. Only now do I recognize the song. It is a lullaby from my childhood. And the woman is my mother. The whippoorwill is singing. The day has found its night. At his post, the soldier's sleeping, when he ought to stand upright. When she finishes singing, I call out to her, "Mother, it's me. I'm home." But she will not turn to face me. "Dima," she says. And when she speaks, her voice is cold, mocking. At last you've come. Were you too busy playing with all the other little devils? I want to respond, try to explain myself. But before I can, I see what she is staring at. An ancient she-cat, fur-matted, muzzle scarred from the battles of 1,000 back alleys, pins a hawk to the floorboards. The bird struggles weakly, its beak opening and closing, gasping for breath as the cat, with cruel claw and yellow fang, torments the dying bird, tearing feathers from its blood-flecked breast. My mother's hands rise and she points towards a door in the room I had not seen before. It is slightly ajar, and for some reason this fills me with immense dread. So I avert my eyes from it, look back to my mother, hoping she will protect me, offer me comfort. Instead, I discover that where her hands had rested, her dress is stained with unnatural ichor, for her hands had concealed a terrible weeping wound. In horror, I glance up towards the woman's face, and I discover that she is no longer my mother. Now hers is the face of the person I must find, the face I witness every night, and I am trapped. I cannot look away. But behind me, I can hear that the door is beginning to creak further open. And that is when I begin to scream, for I suddenly understand the unspeakable thing that awaits me there. And then I open my eyes. It is morning, and I am staring up at the ceiling of the room I have taken at Crow's Casks.
Amazing.
Thanks, guys.
I kind of want to pull back the curtain on that a little bit. So Armat wrote that dream for Vadim based on a conversation that the two of us had where I fed him a bunch of images that are connected to the story of what Vadim is being drawn towards, that Armat himself does not know what they mean or what they are.
Oh.
So
That's
It
awesome.
was so much fun getting to work on this with Lars. Like, our conversation was super rad. We had like a really fun talk about like, yeah, just all the cool, like Vadim's relationship with Pharasma and like how that might manifest. And like, anyway, it was so much fun. And like, I'm super amped about these images because I genuinely don't know like what half of these things mean. So like,
No, but it's like cool that they'll come up and start to mean something. Like it's like it feels very legit, like a dream, right? Like you don't
Like a prophecy and a dream. Yeah.
like every night you have a narrative dream, and then the next day it comes true in bits and pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool.
That was so cool.
today, the 25th of Gosrin, there's a low of 48 degrees, a high of 60.
What's the dew point?
Dew point?
Don't know. Don't care. Not real. It's a cloudy day. There's a wind blowing through. The last vestiges of winter, perhaps, working their way out of the weather's system.
What's the visibility?
0.
Whoa.
It's pitch black. It's pitch black. Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
It takes you 28 hours to get back to the dungeon.
Love it.
Everything is difficult terrain. You
And you
failed
die.
all perception checks that require. Yeah, and you die. Sorry, should have mentioned that.
Bye, guys. That was our show.
You begin the trek back out towards Gauntlet, working your way again up the hill, through the forest, into the swamp. And where would you guys like to start your investigation for the day?
Should we check on Augie before we go all the way down? Make sure he's okay?
Yeah, the situation with Augriel seems to be about the same as it was. He has been staring at that blue light. And he's continuing to stare at it. And he looks at you and he says,
Good luck on what's next for you. I'm going to keep looking at this. It's just so nice.
It is nice. But also terrible. Maybe if we find it on the floor below, we can, I don't know, dim it and it'll help him? Or touch it ourselves and take its power and use it for whatever we want. I don't know. We'll just
I like
see.
the dimming idea. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to second
Maybe
the
not-
dimming idea.
Touch it.
Broadly speaking, I've been assuming we were on more of a dimming trajectory.
Yeah, you don't know until you're there.
Mag, did you want to go explore where you found Otari? Or the green light, I suppose.
Yes. There's more to see there. I want you all to see it. And I want us all to see it at full strength.
What if instead we did that other entrance?
How dare you? So in order to get back to where Mag found that green light, you have to go back into that garbage disposal room and through the garbage chute back to the natural cavern.
Sounds like fun.
Well, we have that climbing kit that we came across, right? The
Rope's
one that's
good.
chilling the bag of holding, so we could maybe Mag will very deftly pull it out of the bag of holding, pinky raised, and she'll take a moment to tie it around. Let's say there's a stone archway over the doorway that includes some carvings that have been carved fully through it, so they're really secure, can bear a lot of weight.
Yes, and just to further highlight that, this area is beautifully built. More care and more resources were put into building this dining room and the adjoining rooms than anything that you have seen previously.
And is its condition somewhat better as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm so fascinated by this. I'm
yeah.
so excited to figure out, each floor gets just more and more interesting, I feel like.
Yes. And this one...
Except for floor 7. I bet it's a dud.
Yeah, floor 7 sucks.
Good point.
Yeah,
Good point.
yeah.
Bad floor.
a bunch of mud demons.
It's just a bunch of yogurt stands.
I think they are.
Yeah, it's all yogurt.
Nothing but kobolds and yogurt it'll become.
Nothing but yogurt. All right. So Mag sort of loops this through a couple of different of the carved pieces of the stonework transom above the door here and pulls it taut, checks it, briefly swings on it with her entire weight. It seems secure. And so she'll start leading the way down, kind of holding on and I don't know, maybe jumping, rappelling a little bit at a time to show the others the way down.
So the rest of you are able to follow Mag with little problem. 40 feet down this polished metal garbage chute. And you land in this natural cavern with this huge mound of fungus in the shape of this creature, the Otyug, this enormous aberrant beast that is used throughout Galarian to process and consume garbage. This Otyug is entirely eaten through by lichen, a green fungus that has created just a superstructure of fungus in the shape of this other creature. And to the south, you're able to see a small passageway with that green light bobbing on the surface of the water, as though it is reflected.
There it is. That's what I could glimpse from last time I was here. That same strange shade of green. It must be some part of what we're meant to find. And she'll step forward to, I guess, the edge of the water and kind of crouch, trying to get a closer look across the surface, or even to see if there's some way to see above the surface if the light is above it and casting a reflection down below.
So from the edge of the water, Mag is able to see that there's a cavern that turns off to the left, and that the light source, the source of that green light, must be somewhere beyond that.
Possible to see, given the light sources that we have, how deep this water is.
Absolutely. The water is covered with a fine layer of pale green mushrooms and mold. But if you stick your hand into it to break that layer of mushrooms, you see that this is it's just sort of a lightly flooded cavern. The water at its deepest is 3 feet deep. Easily wadable.
Yeah. Well, for most of the party anyway.
I think even for Trill,
Even for Trill? Okay.
it would be difficult terrain for everybody, but Trill is able to walk through here with her head above would be able to walk through it with her head above water too.
And actually, Trill even has I think a feat from her wisp background that allows her terrain expertise is specific to underwater things.
Well, that's handy.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, so Trill
Or
stays out.
underground watery surfaces, if I recall correctly.
All right. Well, that's what we're looking at here, isn't it? So Trill will stay out of the bag of holding for now. All right, Mag will step gingerly but purposefully into the water to try to see where to the east this light may be emanating from.
So Mag is able to step into the water and push through this fungal growth on the surface of the water. She sees that this cavern stretches forward about 50 feet. And there is an isle, a small rocky island that rises about a foot above the surrounding water. And on that island, there is a human skeleton dressed in rotten leather armor and clutching a rapier, lying on a heap at the center of the isle.
What?
So you're able to push towards this. You hear the sound of sloshing as this waist-high water sort of washes around you. And after an odd moment of silence, a strange green light slowly rises up from the skeleton. You there. Come no closer. The fear. They want the fear. You hear a faint voice coming from the shimmering light. And the light shifts back and forth for a moment, as though it's looking around in fear. When suddenly you hear a strange, discordant humming sound. No, they're back. They always come back. The voice from this ghostly figure shouts out as the sound fills the room. And as the sound grows steadily louder, the figure of green light in the aisle in front of you forms into the shape of a human man. And all of you, looking at this, are able to recognize this man as an adventurer of some sort. Norman recognizes this man as Otari Ilvashti, the thief of the Rose Guard who Norman saw in a vision from the devil Zazlarin as he survived the fireball blast that supposedly killed him and then escaped into the bowels of this horrible fortress below Gauntlet.
What?
He's a middle-aged man, as you see him floating before you in this green apparition. He's very thin, looks like he's been ravaged by disease. But you can tell that he would have been quite handsome before whatever disease this was took hold. He's wearing a sleek and stylish leather armor vest over a flamboyant large collared shirt. And he has his wavy hair pulled back in a ponytail with a goatee and a rakish mustache on his face as a look of fear continues to emanate from his faintly glowing eye sockets as this hum grows louder and louder. Two things happen. A trio of eerily glowing lights drift into your field of vision and move towards you steadily as this ghost of Otari Ilvashti recoils in fear. And the second thing that happens is that Vadim recognizes the face of this man as the face he sees nearly every night in his dreams.
Whoa.
And we'll pick up from there next time.
The Roots of Ruin is a Tabletop Gold production produced under the Paizo Incorporated Community Use Policy. The Roots of Ruin uses trademarks and/or copyrights owned by Paizo Inc., used under Paizo's Community Use Policy. We are expressly prohibited from charging you to use or access this content. Paizo does not recognize, endorse, or sponsor this project in any way. Original characters and content are the property of Tabletop Gold. For more information about Paizo Inc. and Paizo products, visit paizo.com. We at Tabletop Gold would love to hear from you. Email us at letters@tabletopgold.com and find all our social links at tabletopgold.com.